Hello, everybody. Welcome into the NBA Front Office Show. We just had Media Day. The weather's getting cooler. Green Day is awake. You know what that means. October is finally here. I'm Trevor Lane, joined by Keith Smith. Keith, I'm excited. September, August, really those 2 months, my least favorite of the year. October, one of my very favorite. Not only do we get Halloween, but the NBA is back. Let's go.
Yeah, spooky season becomes hoop season, and here we go. Yeah, we are ready with that. So I'm fired up. We're gonna start getting today. The teams are practicing, so we're gonna start getting a lot of the. This is what happened in practice. This is how this guy looked. So today's show, we're gonna go over a couple news items, and then just to get them out of the way, all at once, ripping the Band-Aid off in every possible way. We're going to run through all of the injuries that are impacting guys going into training camp that were talked about at Media Day or last week Celtics Nuggets Media Day. So we're going to rip through a whole bunch of them. There are a lot of big names. Some of them we've already discussed a little bit, so we won't spend as much time on those. Some of them were new, at least new to me, and I don't think we knew a whole lot what's going on with these guys. So that's what we got planned for you today. So the end's not going to be our most fun show ever because we don't like.
Well, it's always fun because people get to hang out with us, though, right?
No, of course, yeah. We'll keep it lighthearted as best we can. The good news is on almost all of these, other than 3, none are expected to be season ending. And the 3 season ending ones we've known about for a while. So that's if we're already putting some spin on this, that's the good news. And some of these are just, this guy's dealing with this for camp preseason, and we'll be ready opening night. But we'll start with some news first, right?
Yeah. Keith, were you a rip the Band-Aid off kid?
Yes.
Or were you like always the kid that was just a little bit at a time and
rip that sucker right off.
Just go. Go for it.
Got a little tougher as I aged and grew a little arm hair. And
that's what I mean. Like when you're watching, when you go slow and you're watching like every hair individually get ripped out with that Band-Aid. Oh, excruciating. All right. Alperen Sengun wants an extension with the Houston Rockets. He wants to get it done. Does Houston want to get the deal done? And at what price? He is fantastic. I talk about him a lot. I usually rave about Sengun. Keith, where do you think the Rockets and Sengun currently sit, and are they going to ultimately wind up with a deal getting done here?
Yeah, when I wrote about him for Spot Track, when I did the rookie scale extension predictions, I said he's a max guy for me. Like I'd give him the rookie extension max, 25% of the cap, and I wouldn't even think too much about it. I think the challenge has been the Rockets. There is a path to cap space this upcoming summer for the Rockets. It would involve declining their team option on Fred VanVleet and then delaying signing Sengun, delaying signing Jalen Green if they're going to do that. But there's that thought process there that they could go that direction. It would also mean like Steven Adams, Jeff Green, Jayshawn Tate all come off the books. So now here's the other path is you keep Fred VanVleet. You take care of Sengun now, don't let it hang over your head. And maybe you don't go all the way to the max for him. Maybe you go a little bit less. The challenge with Sengun is cap hold's only about $16 million. So that needs to, you're not saving anything if you extend him for more than that. And clearly he's going to get a minimum of double that, I would say, even if he gives a little bit of a discount. But maybe this is a way you can get this done now and not have to go all the way to the full 25% of the cap max and move it forward from there. So we're going to see, how this comes together for Sengun and the Rockets. And if he signs his extension, that tells me they're not going to be a cap space player this summer, which removes arguably one of the best teams with cap space from the market this summer from free agency, at least.
And just to take a peek here, I mean, we are a long ways away, but this is the list currently of NBA free agents for this coming summer. You can see, though, there's a lot here. Let me expand that here. There's a lot of player options, though, on this. And so there's no certainty that what if James Harden picks up his player option? Okay, he's off. Not that he'd be a target for the Rockets anyway, I would imagine. Who knows? But Brooke Lopez, Clint Capella, the guys who are truly unrestricted, Ben Simmons, Maybe Brandon Ingram, depending on what happens with him. He wants to get a deal done too. But there's a number of guys out there who could hit free agency. Not a lot of certainty, though. And what's the likelihood, if you're the Rockets, that you actually land one of these guys? That's just, there's some interesting names on here. I'm not saying it's not an intriguing free agent crop here, but that's one of the things that you have to look at if you're the Rockets and you're trying to figure out, should we try to go the cap space route or should we not? You have to look, well, who's actually out there and available? You see LeBron James, Jimmy Butler, Fred VanVleet, who's a Rocket, Rudy Gobert, Kyrie Irving, Ben Simmons, James Harden, Brandon Ingram, on and on and on. Some interesting names, but also a lot of player options. So that creates a lot of uncertainty in terms of who will really be there come July.
Yeah, the best player that we can, I think, feel really solid is going into free agency next year, I believe, is Brandon Ingram, because it does not look like an extension is going to get done with the Pelicans. Now we'll see. Maybe he ultimately gets traded and then an extension gets done, and then that would turn the best player into Miles Turner. And that's, just overall on my free agent list, I've got him fairly low, all things considered. He's the first guy who doesn't have like all-star level potential. Right. And we know he's not getting extended. He's not extension eligible. Everybody else is either a restricted guy or they have some form of option on their contract. So, and some of those guys are good bets to get extended. So yeah, it's definitely a interesting place to be in. Now, just to paint a little picture with the Rockets here, Rockets could get to about 30 million if they clear the books, keep Green and Sengun on the books as cap holds. But 30 million is not going to get you where you need to be. Then if you were to remove Green, well, now you're up over 60 million in cap space. And that's now all of a sudden you could be a major player on basically whoever it is you want to chase. You could get involved on and trades and everything else. So still a little bit of flexibility for Houston, but if they give Sengun a big contract, go ahead. I think then I assume they'll pick up VanVleet's option and they'll just roll over some of these decisions to next summer.
Yeah, Keith, I mean, if the trade option is interesting, if you do open up that much cap space, but otherwise, like if I'm the Rockets and I think, okay, I'm going to, maybe have an upset Sengun this year, plus I have to jettison Fred VanVleet this summer, and my net for doing that is Brandon Ingram, I don't know if I feel great about that. I think I'd rather just get the deal done with Sengun and hang on to Fred VanVleet and see what's what. And that's your probably best case outcome for the Rockets. The downside is you want to do that, then, Brandon Ingram signs an extension, or, Brandon Ingram hits free agency and picks another team to go to, because you never know. There's no certainty. So if I'm the Rockets, I think I just hang on to the guys I've got.
Yeah, I'm with you with that. I'm fine to just kind of, let's keep building this out. Let's see what this year tells us. Then we can go into next year with still mostly the same team. Maybe we make a couple moves around the edges. I do think they're ripe for some form of consolidation trade at some point, right? Because there's just an awful lot of guys who are pretty good on this team, and you're probably not going to be able to pay all of those guys when that comes due. So yeah, but for now, just kind of keep it moving, right? Keep moving with the guys you have, keep building this thing forward, and let the next year, 2 years really kind of tell you, all right, this is ultimately what we need going forward. And then you should still be in really good position to go after that if that's what you want to do.
All right, let's jump over to the Phoenix Suns and talk a little bit about Kevin Durant, a potential extension coming there for him. Let's get to this here. So KD said, we'll figure it out when it's time regarding an extension with the Phoenix Suns, currently 36 years old, still performing at a very high level. What should an extension look like here between KD and the Suns? And are we running into, I guess we would be running into the over 38 rule here.
Yeah, so that's the challenge, right? So he can only have a 1-year extension right now because he's got 2 years left on his current contract, so he can only add 1 more year. So think of it just like Steph Curry, right? He added 1 year onto his contract. A lot of people have asked, especially after the Curry news broke, why could LeBron do 2 years? Well, LeBron was LeBron went into free agency. That's how LeBron was able to do longer. So you're down to Durant could add one more year. Would be, he'd cap out at $59-ish million, almost 60 million, because he's eligible for the greater of 35% or 105% of his prior salary. So that's how he gets a little bit more than the max there. So that's where he would land out. So we'll see. With KD, my guess is for him and the Suns, it's probably a point of, yeah, we have until the start of the season. It's a couple days before opening day to do this, but we don't need to rush it. We still have another year under contract. We can play it out that way. We've seen Kevin Durant be somewhat cautious with locking in with teams unless he feels good about where that team's going to be. So maybe he's looking at it and saying, let's give it one more year. Let's see what we look like next season, and then we can start talking about adding years onto the contract.
Keith, one other thing I wanted to get into that we didn't put it on the show doc for today, but it's going around. Shams Charania said the Denver Nuggets are a little bit concerned about not getting an extension done with Aaron Gordon ahead of the October 21st deadline, and that could almost certainly lead to him hitting free agency. If you see, he's got a player option coming up next summer. What should the Nuggets be willing to do? I mean, we know the Nuggets essentially just had to watch Kentavious Caldwell-Pope walk away for financial reasons due to the new collective bargaining agreement, the salary tier system being a big factor in that. What about this Aaron Gordon situation? Should the Nuggets be worried about not getting a deal done here?
Yeah, maybe a little bit, especially if they're going to continue to use the aprons and taxes as a true hindrance for them getting deals done. In reality, I think they're just being cheap. But yeah, I mean, you do now have 3 guys already on max deals with Jokic, Murray, and Michael Porter Jr. So you're certainly going to be at least somewhat responsible with Aaron Gordon. I think a lot of this could be too, do they feel like, is Peyton Watson ultimately a 4? What about Julian Strawther? Can he play the 3 full time and move Porter Jr. up to the 4? Like, what would that look like? Where do they envision when he's back next season? Durant Holmes, is he more of a 4? Yeah. Is he a backup 4 or 5? Is he strictly a 5 that plays behind Jokic? What does all that look like? So they've got a little bit of optionality there that they can play with. I think your challenge is Aaron Gordon's been a terrific fit, but he's 29 now. He's in year 10 or 11. Let me look and I can tell you which one it is, just so we're being
he was one of the younger rookies coming in.
He was very young. Draft. Yeah, he is. This is year 11 for him. So we're 29. He will actually just turned 29. So year 11, just turned 29. We're in a spot with Aaron Gordon where, what does that look like, right? Like, where are we kind of going with this? Because you can't commit more than like 25 million average annual value to Aaron Gordon without your cap sheet starting to get to a place where you probably don't feel pretty good about it. And that's part of why they let Caldwell-Pope go. I still think they could have figured that out. And this is why I wrote about this when I wrote about the Nuggets this offseason. This is why you got to be careful on, why did you give Sarge the full non-taxpayer mid-level? Why did you need to do that? Could that have just been a minimum deal?
It's not like a lot. We're talking about $3 million essentially between the non-taxpayer and just a minimum or so.
And the player option for next year.
And a player option for next year. But that kind of money adds up when you're so tight already here for the Nuggets.
So just look at if you look below Gordon, if you're watching on YouTube with us here, Zeke Naji, Dario Saric, Russell Westbrook. I'm talking next season, but we can do this season too. The numbers are all about the same. That's about, what is that? About $16-17 million. Like, in some of those, it's not great money, right? So that's where you're going to be really careful. It sounds all good to have these guys on these value contracts until all of a sudden it's like, yeah, but you know what I'd like even better? That guy on a minimum contract. That would look really good. Exactly. So that's the tricky part, right? You got to be very, very careful. Westbrook, 1.3 million more than you maybe needed to pay him this year. Like, where are we going with that? Then you gave him a $3.5 million player option next year. Why? Like, that's what I don't understand. Like, if that's what it took to get him, like, I would have been asking the question, okay, who else is giving you this? Who else is giving you a 2-year deal? Yes, it's a minimum exception, but on a 2-year deal, it defaults to whatever the actual salary is.
Right.
So that's where it pushes it up, well over $1 million each season to that actual salary. So that's the part where it just gets a little too messy for me, and I feel like you got to be smarter about it.
Well, most teams are going to build 2 stars and then a handful of guys that are in the like 10 to 15-ish million range, and that's where you go, and that's your team. Denver has built 2 stars on big money in Jamal Murray, Nikola Jokic, and then a bunch of money for Michael Porter Jr., and then a bunch of money for Aaron Gordon, and suddenly it makes those decisions farther down your roster that much more punitive, where it hurts that much more if you make any kind of mistake, if somebody is not providing the kind of value that you'd expect. So this is where things start getting pretty tough for Denver, and it'll be interesting to see how that Aaron Gordon negotiation plays out, because if I'm Aaron Gordon, I'm making the case, I'm a champion, I've won a title, I can switch on to just about anybody, I do great things on the glass, I deserve more than $25 million a season, right? So that's going to be challenging, I think, for Denver to try to figure out here and come to a number. Now, I don't think Aaron Gordon should leave Denver. I think he's been a great fit there. I think his game has grown and blossomed, getting just to run and cut off of Nikola Jokic all the time. But if I'm Aaron Gordon, I've got to go to this negotiation and say, I need to get what I'm worth, regardless of what the cap says and everything. And if you're the Nuggets, you've got to figure out a way to find a middle ground and find a workable number. So I get why they're stressing a little bit about that October 21st deadline, because I don't know. I mean, the math is what the math is. Something's going to have to budge, and we'll see if the two sides can somehow meet in the middle somewhere.
And if you're Denver, you're saying, cool, where are you going? Signing with the Nets? Like, where are you going? Who's going to give you that? Because sign and trade, that's a two-way street, right? We got to be involved in that. We got to want to help you get to where you're going, if that's what you want to do. So it really becomes I don't know, man. Like where else are you going? So that's this year and next year, meaning this coming off season, next off season. After that, they're going to still be a little tight on players, even as the cap goes up. It'll start to free up after that. We may see a pivot back towards more teams planning for cap space and more free agent movement and the like. But the next couple seasons, they're just going to be a little tight. Teams have done a lot of extensions and locked into a lot of long-term money all across the league. There just isn't those places right now that are set up to do that. And part of what it is too is nobody's sitting around like the Spurs were and the Pistons were and the Pacers with tens of millions under the salary cap. You can't do that anymore. You can't just be sitting there. So teams aren't like, well, let's dump the salary now. Then next year, look at all the cap space we created.
Right.
That doesn't work that way. So that's going to be the kind of tricky thing for them to roll through here.
All right. Well, let's do it. Injuries. Let's get into it. Let's talk about let's rip the Band-Aid off. It's a good metaphor when we're talking about injuries. Here we go. Keith, what do we have?
All right. So what I did was I did this yesterday and this morning. I went through all of the media day comments, and then I went back, Celtics and Nuggets, anything that's happened over the last week, and just pulled together any players who they gave any injury updates on. If I missed somebody, apologies, because they just may have missed them. And there are a couple guys that might have been dealing with something at the end of last year that they were like, yeah, I'm fine, let's go. And they're not going to be on here. These are players who are either limited to start training camp or they're straight up out into the season. And again, I might have missed one or two, but this is going to be a pretty comprehensive list. Some of these we're going to zip right through, including this first one. Kristaps Porzingis, we know is out after the ankle surgery. Going to be out till sometime in December is what they're saying. The only good news is, seems like he's moving, looks pretty good, doing a lot more than they thought. So that may, instead of be like Christmas, that may be more like early December. But then you default to Boston's going to be extremely careful with him because they know how important he is to everything they want to do is trying to win another title. So they're not going to push him until he's going to be ready and then a week or two beyond ready. and then we'll finally see him on the court. So that's that one. You can stop me on any of these if you want to.
Yeah, no. That was you summed up Porzingis perfectly. Nothing to add. Let's we'll continue on.
All right. So next one, Bojan Bogdanovic came out at Nets Media Day and talked about he is fully recovered from wrist surgery. He had surgery on his wrist. That was bothering him at the time of the trade to the Knicks. Then he also had foot surgery, injured the foot in the playoffs for the Knicks. He had surgery. The foot's still bugging him. He's going to be delayed. He can't go 5-on-5, can't go full contact to open up training camp. Doesn't sound like this is going to be something that goes deep into the season. But the reality is the season starts 3 weeks from today. So any injury that's guy's not ready within the next week, there's a good chance we're not going to see them ready for their team's first game, maybe first week of games or whatever. So it's where Bogdanovic is. I'll just close with, I get it. It's the Nets. People are like, they're going to stink anyway. But Bogdanovic is a guy, if he plays well enough, could have some trade value to another team.
Where is he, do you think, in terms of the age cliff? Is he like right on the edge? Does he have a little bit of room? Is he starting to go over it already? I mean, these injuries starting to add up.
Yeah, he's still been pretty productive and pretty efficient as far as a shooter goes. Challenge is he's kind of a 4 defensively now because he just can't really handle guys on the perimeter. At least before, he was never the quickest guy, but he had enough size to kind of bother guys out on the perimeter. Now he's just kind of a, get in there and stand guys up a little bit, but he's much more still a 2-3 on offense. I think he's somebody that a team will probably look at and be like, and we just need 15 minutes of quality perimeter offense in a playoff rotation, and they may look at it. It's kind of what I think we hoped Gordon Hayward would be for the Thunder last year.
Yeah.
That's kind of where Bogdanovic is at this point.
Yeah, agreed. Okay.
All right, so Mitchell Robinson, we don't need to spend a lot of time there. We know he's got ankle surgery. He's going to be out for a while. The next two, and I'm just doing these in the order my sheets are. Their division, and I'm kind of jumping east-west just to keep it easy so I can keep track. If anybody's, because someone will be like, what the heck order?
What kind of order is this?
If you go to, now we jump over to the West, the Memphis Grizzlies, Gigi Jackson, Vince Williams Jr., we talked about Cam Spencer, one of their two-way guys, just because it's the Grizzlies, you got to have at least 3 guys injured apparently at all times. He's got an ankle problem. Open camp. Cam Spencer's one of the guys. The Grizzlies have 2 open standard roster spots. He's one of the guys that has been talked about of maybe they could convert him. I think by the end of the year, they probably will. Cam Spencer's really good. Played for UConn last year. Pretty good shooter, pretty good ball handler, fairly solid defender. He's just a guy kind of just is a good player. He's like a bigger TJ McConnell that will actually shoot 3-pointers. That's kind of how I think about him. So he's a little bit behind with an ankle injury to open the year. Any thoughts on any of those that you want to add?
Nothing. Just I hope the Grizzlies, can find some way to heal up, stay healthy. Because last season was such a disappointment. I mean, their whole team was just obliterated due to injury. They were just gone. I mean, I mean, they did their best to find diamonds in the rough. Gigi Jackson, Vince Williams. They did, and of course, those guys are hurt now. But because of course, but no, and Jake LaRavia as well. But not hurt, but just he showed some stuff last year. But I just want to see Memphis healthy and get more of a sense of what this team truly is, because you basically have to delete last season when you're analyzing this team.
Yep. Yeah. It's going to be one of those ones. Hopefully they get back to where they were, and that's just a blip, right? And you're like, I don't know what happened. Get rid of it. All right. If we go to the Toronto Raptors, we already talked about it. Bruce Brown is out for a little bit. He had a knee cleanup surgery done. But the Raptors announced just on the eve of training camp, Jacoby Walter, one of their first-round picks, he is also out with a shoulder injury. So he's going to be out a little while. And anytime you're a rookie, these are just lost reps, right? Because Jacoby Walter, he could have maybe snatched some minutes with Bruce Brown being on the shelf, but probably not a super priority yet for the Raptors to play. Eventually in the course of the year, that'll probably be what they pivot to as they, we get deeper into the year, and they're probably not going to be a playoff team. So move into the development phase, but just lost reps in training camp, lost reps early in the season. Probably will have to get up to speed a little bit in the G League to open the year, barring another injury there. So that's the Raptors side of things. San Antonio, we talked about Devin Vassell. that he's going to be out. Charles Bassey, though, on the good news injury front, he is going to be a little limited, but he's back from the torn ACL that he suffered. So he's back, should be ready to be pretty well a participant. And if not, right on day one of camp, which is today for them, probably by the end of the preseason, he should be fully up to speed. He's a guy that they could warrant a look next to Wembanyama in some pretty big front courts there in San Antonio. All right.
Okie dokie.
Keep it moving.
Keep it moving. We'll keep on rolling and roll through all these injuries that hopefully, Keith, we don't have to do this again during the season.
I know, right? Yeah, not like this at least.
Yeah. Right.
All right. So Chicago, good news, bad news. Good news, Patrick Williams is no issues. We got that report that he was having foot soreness, shut him down over the summer. We'll say he's full go and no issues going into camp. Kind of mixed news. Lonzo Ball, full go-ish, but Lonzo Ball also ultimately came out and like, hey, I'm not going to play back-to-backs. Like, that's not going to be a thing. And he's going to be on a minutes restriction, but says he's ready to go and ready to get back out there. So that's kind of the good news, bad news, but nothing surprising there, right?
No, you would expect that from Lonzo Ball. Like, he's just getting back. I mean, literally years away from the game due to these injuries. I wouldn't expect him to be playing in back-to-backs or anything crazy. This is first – get back on the court, and then go from there. Build from that point on.
Now, here's the bad news, but maybe not. We'll see. Josh Giddey revealed at Media Day that he ruptured ligaments in his ankle at the Olympics. Now, the Olympics maybe feels like it was forever ago, but it was a month and a half ago.
It's because we've been so basketball starved since then. It feels like it was a lifetime ago. But yeah, in terms of actually recovering from an injury, it wasn't that long ago.
So he said that injury happened in Australia's last game of the Olympics. He ruptured a ligament. All reports are he's pretty much ready to go. He also talked about how like even in their informal scrimmages, they've been setting the shot clock when they've played with a shot clock at only 14 seconds. Because Billy Donovan's intention, which this is not an injury update, but a strategy thing, but I think a fun one. He wants to play super fast. This year, he wants to get the ball and go. And I think that's actually great for their personnel because I think you've got Patrick Williams, create easy offense. You've got guards that can really run the ball up the floor. Your challenge is like a guy like Vooch, but one of Vooch's best skills historically has been he's a pretty good trail jump shooter.
Yeah.
So you can even, hey, you make sure we secure the rebound, get it outletted, and then you're going to be the last guy up the floor, and that's fine because they're not running like a ton of post-ups and stuff. So
you see this from young teams fairly often where they say, you know what, like, with a young team, you say, we're not going to out-execute teams full of veterans in the half court because they're going to understand all the nuances, all the little tricks of the game and everything. But what we can do is we can run all day because we've got young legs. We're going to try to beat you down the floor every single possession. We're going to play at lightning pace and try to take advantage of the things that we have in our favor. So I think ultimately in the Bulls' development, their pace will slow down as time goes on. I'm not talking about this season as they develop into, a contending team. Ideally, that pace I think will start to pull back a bit. But this is pretty common for a young team to say, you know what, let's just race up and down the floor. We're going to get as many possessions as we can, and we're going to try to beat you with our fresh legs, and that's the way we're going to approach it. So not a surprise necessarily that the Bulls are going to play fast, but it can lead to some very sloppy basketball. Keith, we saw that out of who was it? Houston the last few years that was throwing the ball into the 10th row and stuff like that. But it can lead to exciting basketball, sloppy basketball as well, but a lot of possessions, a lot of flying up and down the floor. May matter for people looking at fantasy matchups or daily fantasy, things like that. Just expect there to be a lot of opportunities when teams are playing against the Bulls or if you've got guys who are playing for the Bulls.
I will also add, every coach ever says we're going to play fast in October. Sure. And they may play fast in October and November, and then we get to December and everybody starts to slow down. I remember it may have been the pandemic season, but it was definitely, if not, it was the season before. Remember, it was like, holy crap, pace is way up and everybody's playing so fast and everybody's running up and down like crazy. And it just happened to be every team was committed to like, we're going to try to get as many possessions as we can. And then by the time we get to Christmas, it was like, guys were like, all right, I'm tired. I'm going to start walking the ball up the floor. So.
Right.
All right, we're moving on. That was your Bulls injury update. We get to the Nuggets. Durant Holmes, he's out, torn Achilles. We already talked about that. He's going to miss the entire season. He is one of the 3 players that we know is out for the year. Yep. Peyton Watson, though, is dealing with a hamstring issue. Not expected to play in the games in Abu Dhabi here as they're playing Boston on Friday and Saturday. Morning games, if anybody's trying to set a schedule or anything, well, not morning, it's a noon start on Friday and then a 10 a.m. start on Sunday for those 2 games. So, but if you're a football person, it'll be basically wrapped up by the time football tips off for you. So
is there might be a London game this week? I know
there is. I think it's actually the Patriots.
Is it
on Sunday?
I hate those.
It is not. No, I'm sorry. The Patriots is in like a couple weeks, I guess.
I hate those games. Only from the fantasy football perspective, because like they'll announce a guy's out like an hour before the game or something like that, and everybody's asleep. Nobody's awake to make the change their lineups. It's an absolute killer.
Get out of bed. Get out of bed. Old man yelling at the cloud.
I'm up till like
sleeping in so late.
Sleeping in. I'm up till like 2 or 3 a.m. most nights. Come on.
Oh. Hey, I'm gonna tell you what the old guy used to work with, and I say this all the time. Can't expect to soar with the Eagles if you stay up all night hooting with the Owls. So there you go.
My owl tattoo is reflective of that. There it is.
All right. We're moving into the next round of injuries here. The Detroit Pistons. This one's a little unfortunate. Asar Thompson, not cleared for contact. If you remember, got shut down early last year because of blood clots. They're still working through the return to play process. The Pistons this was per Trajan Langdon, new Pistons front office leader, that they are still working through with the NBA and the NBPA to get him fully cleared to come back. Doesn't sound like there's an issue that he won't be cleared to come back, but he's not yet. He can do everything that the Pistons are doing minus contact. So he can be a part of all the conditioning, all the strength work, and all the on-court work minus any kind of contact. So that one was a little bit of a surprise. I was not ready for that. If I know a lot of people probably weren't watching the Pistons very long last season, especially after 28 game, whatever it was, losing streak.
Yeah.
Asar Thompson was like nightly filling up the box score with points, rebounds, assists, steals, and blocks. He averaged almost a steal, over a steal, and almost a block per game as a rookie wing. That's like 6'6", 6'7". So that's pretty impressive. He was actually fairly efficient considering he has no jump shot at all to like speak of. So hopefully he uses this time where he's non-contact. Just get the jumpers up, right? Let's try. If he could shoot like just low to mid 30s instead of like high teens on 3-pointers, the sky's the limit, man. This kid's going to be unbelievable.
We've said that for a lot of players though, and it feels like more players don't fully develop the jumper than do. When we're like, God, if this guy could just be average as a shooter, it changes so much of his game. I don't know. Hopefully it does though. So, a guy is this young, there's going to be more potential for him to add that jumper to his game, but it does take time. Sometimes it's not something that comes around till later on in a career.
And sometimes it doesn't ever.
Sometimes it never does.
It doesn't ever happen. So, but he's shown even without the jump shot, can be super duper impactful player by doing a whole lot of other things. Like I'm very high on him. I'm very high on his brother. I think they're both going to be really, really good. All right. So not staying in Detroit, but moving down my list here, Oklahoma City Thunder. Kenrich Williams has had a knee cleanup surgery done. He's going to be delayed start to the season. I think they said sometime in November he's going to be looked at. So we'll see. Nikola Topic, their highest of their 2 first-round picks, he's out for the season after tearing an ACL. The only reason I want to talk about this one briefly is a bunch of people have asked, because they asked with him and with Durant Holmes, do the teams get an extra roster spot because they're out for the year? And I can only think this only comes up over and over again because people are in football mode where if a guy gets put on injured reserve,
sure,
you do open a roster spot. There's no injured reserve in the NBA. they did away with that. It's got to be 20 plus years ago now. There used to be an injured list, and it was guys were out. I think it started a minimum of 10 games, then it was a minimum of 5 games, but now it's been gone for years when they introduced the inactive list. So what happens is Topic is there. He takes up a roster spot. The only way you get those extra roster spots is up to 4 guys need to be out, and they need to be out for at least 2 weeks for that to be a thing, or have been out for a while. And then you can petition the league to say, hey, can we, when I say 2 weeks, I think it's actually 3 or 4 games. I'll look up the actual wording later. I'm going to come back with that update for everyone, but it is, that's basically what it amounts to is you got to have at least 4 guys out with long-term injuries. Then you can petition the league. League will grant you a hardship exception. Memphis, that's how they had 33 guys play for them last year because they had multiple hardships and the like.
Well, yeah, exactly. So we'll see ultimately where that exactly lands if they're able to apply for that. All right. What
Trevor,
else do we have?
We're almost halfway done. I promise. We're over halfway.
Okay.
So we're getting
it's Bon Jovi time. Living on a prayer.
Yeah, we're halfway there. Yep.
Let's go.
Whoa. Living on a prayer. We'll make it, I swear. All right. Bon Jovi's good stuff, man. I like Bon Jovi.
It is.
Yeah. Bon Jovi, first ever tape I got when I got a boombox when I was a kid. Slippery when wet tape.
That is an all-time classic. Keith, there was a viral clip that was going around on the YouTube of John Bon Jovi at a wedding, and the singer knew that he was in attendance, and so started singing. I believe it was "Living on a Prayer." It's been a while since I've seen it. I'm pretty sure it was "Living on a Prayer," and then he's bringing the mic over to him to like make him sing it or whatever. You can see he was kind of reluctant, and I don't know why. I had this thought pop into my head. This is, by the way, totally unscheduled nonsense. Pop into my head the other day. I'm like, does that get annoying if that's like you're known for singing, and like everywhere you go, people are like, do that thing that you do. Go here, do it. Here's a microphone.
It reminds me of that
was a good
episode
sport about it, but still
of The Simpsons where they're like, say the thing.
I didn't do it, boy.
Yeah. Did you see the other viral clip of John Bon Jovi recently in Nashville? He like kind of sort of saved a woman from committing suicide.
What?
He was so you can look this up. If anybody else wants,
did he sing to her?
Look it up. She was on a bridge in Nashville, like when was already over the railing, and there was like someone stopped and talking to her, stopped his car and walked up to her, talked to her, helped her back over, gave her a big hug, and then handed her off to the authorities or whatever. But yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Yep. Really is a hero, right?
Yeah.
So, there you go. So yeah.
There you go.
Yeah. All right. Well, that was unscheduled nonsense for the day. My other tape I got that year, because you can't just give a kid one tape. The Ghostbusters soundtrack.
Oh, who are you gonna call?
The original Ghostbusters. Yeah.
Your lawyers, apparently, because the song was ripped off. But anyway.
Right. All right. So moving on. James Wiseman, Indiana Pacers. Just a little hamstring issue. Doesn't sound like super serious, but like, let's not start down this path on your new team. Fresh start. Like, let's, try to, figure this out. It might be me and like the Wiseman family left, but I've still got some James Wiseman stock. I still believe he can turn into a productive NBA center. Some bigs take 5 or 6 years to really pop and figure it out. And I don't know, man, I'm not out on him yet. There's just too much athletically there. His touch is too good. He moves too well for me to be fully out, but starting a little bit behind with Pacers training camp due to a hamstring injury.
Well, not ideal, certainly for James Wiseman. I agree, but I'll tell you what, Keith, I think this is it. I think this is the do or die season here for James. If it doesn't happen this time, this is probably it.
Yeah, what is this? This is year. Let me look to make sure we got this right. So this is only year 5. He is he's only 23, so he'll turn 24 this year. So he might get another year or two, but it might be more of like go to the G League and see if you can figure it out there, or I don't know, maybe take a bunch of money overseas and kind of comes back. All right. So moving on. I don't know if we talked about this one or not. You're going to have to keep me honest here. If you remember, Chris Middleton had double ankle surgery this offseason.
Okay.
I think this might have come out over a weekend or we weren't recording.
I think you're right.
Yeah, Chris Haynes reported on it. It's weird because Doc Rivers like, no, he's a full participant in camp, except for these like 7 things he's not going to be able to do when we.
He's a full participant in camp, except he's not.
Yeah, except he can't play basketball. I don't know. But like it sounds like it's mostly the contact and 5-on-5 stuff that they're holding him out of. He says he'll be ready opening night. The team seem to be optimistic about that. We'll see. Yes, they added some wing depth with Gary Trent Jr. and Taurean Prince. I have really, really good pickups, especially since they were on the minimum. But if you're the Bucks, you don't want to start this way. No. And then it also came out at Media Day yesterday. Giannis and Damian Lillard said they just didn't have a chance to connect this summer between Giannis playing in the Olympics and getting married. They didn't have the ability to work out at all together, where they kind of left last season saying, like, we need more time together to work out. And it just, for whatever reason, didn't happen. But on the plus side, Damian Lillard did work out, which he said he didn't do at all of the prior summer because he was afraid of getting hurt and ruining any chances of a trade. So,
well, that's good. I mean, yeah, it makes sense that he didn't want to get hurt last summer, and I get that. So now he's working out this summer. That's fantastic. But the Bucks got bounced early in the playoffs. We're talking. I mean, this is not like oh, I was, I got busy today. Like 5 things happened, and I just sorry, I wasn't able to make it to that one training session or something. We're talking about what 4 or 5 months or something that they had to potentially link up and train. You couldn't find any time, really? That, I don't know. That doesn't have the ring of truth to me. Maybe it wasn't as big of a priority, and maybe it doesn't matter. But to say, oh gosh, the last 4 months were just completely packed and we just had no time. I don't know if I can totally buy that. Like, if you really want that to happen, you would make it happen.
Yeah, I'll cut him a little. One, I agree with you. I don't know that it really matters. Like,
it probably doesn't.
Veteran guys, they should be fine. But I'll cut them both a little bit of slack. We know Damian Lillard talked about how like he was going through a divorce, had to change cities, move from the city he's made home. Like he's already talked about when his career's over, he's going to live in Portland and all the stuff there. I wonder if he was like, hey, I got to get a whole lot of family time in, because it doesn't sound like he's moved the family at all. It sounds like he's, hey, you stay here where life is. And then Giannis did have the Olympics. He did get married himself. So maybe it wasn't quite as it, but yeah, you would think there might have been a couple days where someone could have traveled somewhere and done something, but whatever. I don't
both of these guys can afford flights, I'm sure, to go link up,
without a doubt.
Yeah.
This one caught me off guard a little bit. Onyeka Okongwu, not a full go for the Hawks, coming off toe surgery. Knew he had toe surgery, but just still working through it, still rehabbing again. Another guy that doesn't seem like opening night's in danger, but if you're not ready now, if we don't get a positive update here in the next week or so, that starts to get a little more nervous with, opening days only about 3 weeks away. Seth Lundy, one of their two-way guys, got a sprained ankle. Just gonna work through that here in the time being. All right, we're getting down to it. I promise. We're almost there. We're almost at the finish line. You can kind of see it out there in front of us. Mark Williams of the Charlotte Hornets battled back injuries all of last season, cost him most of last season. Good news is back is good, but he strained a ligament in his foot, and he's going to be out probably till the start of the season or so. He definitely said he's going to miss training camp. Training camp preseason, they kind of get used interchangeably, but sometimes training camp is truly training camp, which is like this week. And then when we start playing preseason games, these guys will be ready. There wasn't a lot of clarity on that, but it does sound like we're not going to see Mark Williams. As much as I've said I am, and I'm putting this in air quotes for everyone not watching, high on the Hornets. Hey, I'm not like think they're a playoff team. It's like they could make the play-in tournament because somebody has to in the East. They're not making it if Mark Williams isn't in there to able to hold down the back line. They need him on the floor.
You'd correct me if I'm wrong, but you just see the Hornets as a team where a random Wednesday night, you can flip on a Hornets game and not be disappointed that you did.
Yep.
And I think most people see them the other way as a team that, oh my God, this team's awful. I don't even want to pay any attention to this team. That type of, they put them in that type of category. And you see them as like a tier up, or hey, this team could be fun on any random night.
Yeah, LaMelo Ball is really fun. And Brandon Miller is awesome. Like, people I know quit on the Hornets, stopped watching the Hornets. He got really good as the year went along. Like, you could see from night 1 to night 82 or whatever. I know he didn't play every game, but played a lot of them. He got so much better. Like, just the way he read the floor, the game slowed down for him. He's going to be great. Probably not this year, but I would say year 3 and 4. He's going to be knocking on the door being an all-star. And if he is, Hornets are probably going to be okay, provided these other guys are not still out and missing time and missing, 3/4 of the season and the like.
Yeah, later on in the season, the Hornets actually started to develop plans for a big banner in the arena that they were going to unfurl every time Brandon Miller had a good game. That just says "Told you so" after all the flack they caught over picking him over Scoot.
Hand up, I'm guilty. Hand up, I'm guilty. I still believe in Scoot too. I think Scoot's going to be really good too, but Brandon Miller's terrific. He's really, really, really good. So no more complaints from me on that one. All right. Kawhi Leonard, we know he's out. The good news was, so some of these come with good news. He says he's going to be ready for opening night. He basically said, I'll be there opening night. He also did touch on a little bit, probably not going to play back-to-backs. That's I think we all know that, right? So Kawhi's probably going to be not eligible for awards at the end of the year. But if he's not eligible and the Clippers are in the playoffs, they're not going to care, right? It's not where I have them right now, but he says he'll be ready to go. Trenton Flowers, one of their two-way guys, he's coming off wrist surgery. He was a guy who came in this draft class here. Kid who went over to Australia and played. He's going to be out a little bit to start the year, but he's on a two-way, so we'll see where that goes. Any thoughts or anything you need to add on Kawhi, or we have talked his?
Kawhi. I hope he can stay healthy, because here we are. And the Clippers, like you said, they could be in the danger zone of a team looking to drop. They've lost Paul George. They did add some pieces, but they need Kawhi out there. They need him healthy. Especially when you're hearing stuff like this, could just be something that he's dealing with for the rest of his career and all that. That's not ideal. So,
and that's exactly what it is. I mean, he's been dealing with this since his last year with the Spurs, when he missed all the time with them and then ultimately was traded. And they said it at that time. The Spurs very openly said, this is not an injury as much as it is a condition that'll need to be managed. And that was more with his quad, but quad, knee, it all becomes the same, muscle groups after a while. And I think, the quad not being where it is has probably led to some of the knee problems. Much to my mom's chagrin, I'm not a doctor, but I will play one on the front office show here on occasion. I think it's, it is, it is what it is with that. All right, moving to the Miami Heat. Remember Josh Richardson separated his shoulder in the first round against Celtics? Still not ready to go. Still out.
Really?
Yep, working back, but still not cleared to go. So sounds like that was whatever went on with that shoulder. Was probably more than just the shoulder separation. I'm going to guess something might have torn in there or something. So,
what do you think about NBA teams shutting down injury communication once their season ends?
Yeah, I don't hate it, because I don't mind. Everybody needs some time off. Let everybody get some time off. But yeah, if we're in a point where a guy's going through something, I wouldn't mind an update. Had the Celtics not given us any update on Kristaps Porzingis, so right before training camp or when training camp opened, that would have felt like, what are we doing?
So what the Lakers did with Jared Vanderbilt, in other words.
Yeah. If guys are gonna, especially if there's surgery involved,
right?
And now someone's gonna be like, we don't need to know anybody's medical history, right? That's part of what it's part of what happens in sports, right? Medical and injury history is part of it. We just deal with it. So, all right. Anyway, we're getting a little pressed for time, so I'm going to zip through. Speaking of Jared Vanderbilt, Christian Wood, both out, double foot surgery for Vanderbilt. Wood had the knee surgery, both on recovery. We've talked it quite a bit here. I know you guys have spent a lot of time on it over on Lakers Nation. So if you want more on that, you can find it there. All right, Sadiq Bey, this one's easy. The signed with the Wizards, but tore his ACL late last year with the Hawks. Has not been ruled out for the season, but the assumption is probably not going to play. And if he does, it'll probably be like a Brandon Clark type of thing where it is get back with 7, 8, 9, 10 games to play in a handful of them. Just that way you can go into the off season. My knee's good. I'm ready. Have a normal off season. Hit training camp 100% ready to go. Just build the confidence that way. So probably we're not going to see him for several months if we see him at all. And if we do, I think it'll probably be one of those cameo, let him feel good about things and get into the summer there. And then the Kings round us out with a whole bunch of guys. Devin Carter, their first round draft pick, lottery pick, torn labrum in his shoulder. He's going to miss several months. So we won't see him. Kevin Huerter is still recovering from a shoulder injury. He is not full go to start camp. So he's working through some stuff. Trey Lyles has, let me make sure, groin strain. So he's going to be out for a little bit here. Probably sounds like he's going to miss most of camp in the preseason. And then Jordan McLaughlin, who they signed to give him a little bit of guard depth, he's coming off an ankle sprain. Sounds like he's getting closer. I would assume we'll see him at some point in the preseason. Probably same with Huerter. We'll probably see him more towards the end of the preseason, but that's 4 rotation guys for the Kings that are all dealing with something to start the summer. That's a team I know we're both relatively high on. Not like win the West high on them, but push for a playoff spot and be really good. So there it is, my friend. We got through every team. If we didn't talk about a team, they didn't have anything. So knock on wood right now.
Count yourself lucky.
Feel good about that one that they didn't have anything. But there it is. We whipped through a whole bunch of injuries. 32 players, by my count, have something.
Turn it off.
Two-way guys.
Turn the slider off on injuries.
Stars. Yeah. It's not where we need to be opening the year. And I am sure there are at least 1 or 2 I missed. And unfortunately, a handful more are going to come up over the next few weeks here in the preseason. It's just how it goes. So, but let's shut the injury slider off. We can turn it off for now. Everybody heal up, get ready, and let's start the season as healthy as we can.
That's right. Season starts up. It's October 22nd. Yeah. So we're counting down now.
3 weeks from today.
Let's go. And we've got basketball on Friday.
Yeah.
Yes.
I know you think it's 3 weeks from Lakers opening night, but I know you know what the real story is opening night. I know you know. The
real story? Oh, I know. Yeah, I know the real story is Lakers opening night. You've got you've got the introductory act, that's going to be on.
Yeah, introductory. Hanging a banner. Opener. How many of them? Oh, 18. Is that right? So they're getting hard to count. Once I run out of fingers and toes, I start to get in a little bit of trouble. That's not true. I have 20 fingers and toes. I shouldn't have put it that way.
It's like when you go to a concert and there's the arena is half full and you've got the introductory band. They come out, the opener, they come out. They do their thing. The small group of people that are there get somewhat entertained.
That's
and then
funny.
Everybody shows up for the main event, which is later on in the evening.
I thought you were going to say it's like when you go to a concert and you look up and the team hasn't won enough banners, so they hang sold out show banners in their arena. That's what I thought you were going to say. It's like, okay, I get it. I see where it goes. So I don't know. All I know is one team's collecting a little bit of jewelry on opening night.
They are indeed.
Here's what we can't agree on. 3 weeks, baby. 3 weeks.
And we have basketball back. Let's go.
And we got preseason by the end of this week. We're almost there. So
Keith, I'm at a point. I'm even excited to see the Celtics play. Not gonna lie. I'm just give me. I just want to see basketball.
Somebody clip that. And
I'm excited. I'm excited to see everybody play at this point. Of course, I'm extra excited to see the Lakers. I just want to see everybody. The Detroit Pistons against the Hornets. Yes, I'm there. Sign me up. That's where I'm at right now.
Yeah, I do a lot of radio spots around the country. And I'm not going to say which team it was, but I did one this morning and they said, why it's a team that's not very good. And they're like, why would anybody, give us a reason to be excited? And I was like, I'll rattle off like 7 of them. Let's go. And the guy was like, you're a problem. Like, go like reevaluate some things. Like, I'm not watching this team till after football season, and I might not even watch them then. And I was like, oh no, there's 30 of them, and I'll be watching every single one of them as much as I can in the first few weeks of the season.
That's right. All right, everybody. Well, thank you so much for joining the show. Make sure you do subscribe over on YouTube. Follow us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you listen to podcasts. We'll be back tomorrow talking about everything coming out of, there's going to be stuff coming out of training camp later today. So we'll be breaking down all of that tomorrow. See you then, and stay safe.